What's up, guys? Welcome to Nightmare Flicks. I want to play a game. No, for real though. I want to play a game because over on the horror subreddits, like each individual horror franchise over the past week has been doing this cool little thing where each day the fans come together and vote on which entry in their respective franchise best suits a certain superlative. And I just found this really neat. I think it's way more insightful than other lists or rankings or things you may see online, like Rotten Tomatoes, because Rotten Tomatoes is just an aggregate of people who are more casual moviegoers or may not even like the Halloween movies. And so they're just giving you an opinion on like the eighth movie in the franchise and just kind of cynical and eye rolling. No, this is people who eat, sleep, and breathe Halloween and Michael Myers 365 days a year. So their takes mean a lot more to me. And to kind of see those takes aggregated, I think that's interesting because as a diehard Halloween fan, I want to compare my opinions to what the fans' consensus is. See where I don't lie with them. You know what I mean? And you can do the same and be sure to let me know your winners for each category down in the comment section because we're going to go by like each day and what that superlative was. So day one was the fans had to come together and decide what is the best Halloween movie in the entire franchise. And they chose the most blasé, bland, vanilla ass pick you possibly could. They chose John Carpenter's 1978, The Night He Came Home. And they're right. I say vanilla, I say blasé and bland, but that's because it's expected and it's expected for a reason. It is a movie that was maybe a bit groundbreaking, which may sound a bit over the top for a movie that is relatively simple. But even that being said, so much had to be created and innovated by John Carpenter and Co. to make that movie the lasting tour de force that it is. And that we had this whole new like subgenre explosion of slashers that were often trying to imitate Halloween, but were unable to replicate Halloween. So the fact that they gave us the boogeyman, the shape with this incredible lore, they gave us a proto-final girl in Laurie Strode, they gave us a really cool foil in Dr. Loomis, and then they had that score, they had Laurie's theme, they had that main theme, so much mood, tension, atmosphere. Yes, it is absolutely the best. But if it wasn't best, the category wasn't best, it was just what's your favorite. I'm now man enough to say that the original's not my favorite nowadays. My favorite now, I can say wholeheartedly, is Halloween 4. On any given night, if I'm going to put on a Halloween movie, it's most likely going to be Halloween 4. It's one that brought me into the franchise when I was a very small child. I watched it. I related to the child in the movie, Jamie Lloyd. I really rooted for her. I loved her dynamic with her older sister, Rachel. And it just really introduced me to the boogeyman and the world of Halloween. Kind of like, what is going on here? Is he a man? Is he supernatural? Whoa, these are crazy kills. Whoa, this Dr. Loomis guy is a bit crazy, but I can't help but love him. You know, this is awesome stuff. And so Halloween 4 to this day, for all those reasons, all that nostalgia, all the vibes, all the mood, all the atmosphere, all the amazing kills and great characters, that's my favorite. But the first one's the best. And I can admit that. So of course, if they did the best on day one, you know they did the worst on day two. And the subreddit chose Halloween Resurrection for day two. And now, yes, there were tons of votes for the people who hate Halloween Ends. There was tons of votes from the people who hate Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And I like both of those movies, at least more than I dislike them. So I'm not going with either one of those either. I'm going to go with the consensus here. But I think you have to go Halloween Resurrection for the reason that Halloween H2O was such a great way to end the franchise if it did conclude things right then and there. Because you had this wonderful story, this narrative, this arc for Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. And the way it all culminated was really, really great. And I think a lot of fans loved it in that moment, and it kind of remains for a lot of fans one of their favorite sequels. A lot of people think this is the best timeline when you look at it from a story perspective. And they undid it all in the cash grab that was Halloween Resurrection. We have this final girl people love. She just had a big victory. Nope, turns out she's a dunce. She's a moron. And it's worse than just that. She's more than a moron because she gets another crack at Michael. She's been waiting for him yet again. She devises a trap, but she gets her ass killed in the first 15 minutes of the movie because she leans in to kiss her brother on the mouth. What the fuck? Dude, this movie sucks. Everything about this movie sucks. And nothing after that is any better than what happens in the first 15 minutes. I love Bianca Katchlich, but she's just not that great of a final girl. She couldn't even scream to talk about it on the special features. They had to have someone come in and dub a scream for her. You need your final girl to be able to scream. I'm sorry, you just do. And then of course, you have Busta Rhymes walking around with, and crispy like some chicken fried, motherfucker, and trick or treat, motherfucker. Michael Myers ain't a sound bite. He's a killer shark in some baggy ass overalls. All that stuff. That's not what I'm looking for in my Halloween movies. It's a very dumb movie. It has no dread or tension to it, and the kills aren't even good to distract you from all the nonsense going on. So that's my worst pick. Interestingly enough, some people must have found some redeeming qualities in Resurrection, though, because the subreddit chose it to be the worst Halloween movie, and they also chose it to be the funniest Halloween movie, which I guess makes sense because this isn't a funny franchise. This isn't one you come to for the giggles. That being said, I have such a bad time with Resurrection overall that I don't find it to be funny. And so when I look at this franchise, I'm like, what would be funniest? I really have to strain and think hard, but I'm going to go with Halloween Kills. I just think maybe there's some irony, so a little bit of like, effing epic failure, bro. With Tommy walking around all night, evil dies tonight, and patting old Huckleberry like he's gonna really bash Michael's head in, only to get dispatched super fast. With stuff with like Big John and Little John and their dynamic, and like when we first see them, that little weird dance that Big John is doing, the fact that Little John locks the door and goes to stalk after Michael and try to take him down with a charcuterie knife. The fact that Cameron, a character that so many people wanted to see get his for so long, you have to make that killer memorable. You have to make it impactful, and it was because it was kind of fun. It was really silly. It was really fun because Michael shoved his head through the rails of the steps and basically input an old school cheat code where he was like left, left, up, right, left, right, up, down, left, right, fatality. And so that was silly. And it's not like a laugh a minute movie, but none of these movies to me have a ton of yucks. So I'm going to go with Halloween Kills for being the funniest. Now they did the inverse of funniest on the next day. They were like, what is the most serious Halloween movie? And they went with the original film. And I'm gonna disagree here, yeah, because that movie is, yeah, way more serious than it is like silly or light or breezy or any of that. But there's still fun being had because a lot of the movie, it's young characters who don't know that there's a madman on the loose, that they are being stalked, and that they ultimately are going to kill it. This is their last night on Earth. And so they're teenagers that have a good banter or rapport. The girls are busting each other's chops. You have Bob saying, really terrible jokes like, first I'm ripping your clothes off, then you rip my clothes off, then we're gonna go rip Lindsay's clothes off. Bob, you deserve to die. There, I said it. No, I think the most serious one, it has to be Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And if it's not Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, then it's Rob Zombie's Halloween 1. Because there's not a bit of levity in those movies whatsoever. I mean, what in those movies makes you grin? Which ones kind of lift the mood for even just a teensy bit? Now, those movies are just steeped in such misery and such bleakness, such nihilism and cynicism, such a disdain for mankind, that there's no silliness to be had. There's no funniness going on, especially if you watch the director's cuts where it just gets all the more dreadful. So even though I think there's things that I've softened up on with those movies over the years, and I do kind of enjoy Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 for being so markedly different than anything else in the franchise, to me, those have to be the most serious. And I just can't even fathom it being anything else. If you disagree, lay out your case down below and we'll talk about it there. But I think it's got to be one of Rob Zombie's movies. Ah, yes, the category that was made for the Halloween franchise. Weirdest. What is the weirdest Halloween film? Now, they went with Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. And that's a good pick. It's got steep competition, though, because nobody saw what happened in Halloween Ends happening. Nobody looked at those first two films and was like, this is what they're going to do. They're going to introduce this other character who is like a high school boy, has something bad happen to him, then he gets beat up by the marching band, and then he takes down Michael Myers and takes his mask. No, nobody saw that coming. I'm sure nobody saw Halloween 3 being what it was. And it is the black sheep of the franchise. It's so different than any other movies. It doesn't really have anything to do with Michael Myers. That could definitely be the weirdest pick. Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 with the white horse stuff and all the weird kind of like new metal music video stuff that they throw into that one. That could be your weirdest. I think I'm going to agree, though. I think it's Halloween 6 for the reason that there's two cuts. Maybe a lot of people don't even know, but you have a theatrical cut, and you have a producer's cut, and both of them are super freaking weird and introduce a whole lot of new stuff to the lore of Haddonfield and to Michael Myers. We have stuff with, cults. We have all this sort of black saw and magic shit going on. We have runes in one of the cuts. We have an incestuous baby in one of the cuts. We have an implication that, maybe Michael was made to his niece. So it doesn't get much weirder than Halloween 6. And I love Halloween 6. I do. It is a guilty pleasure film. There's just nonstop something that is interesting to look at, weird, puzzling, or worthy of discussion on the screen at all times with Halloween 6. But that being said, for that reason, it's the weirdest because you probably don't come to a Halloween movie and think, at some point, there's gonna be like a surgery scene, and there's gonna be like fetuses and little weird jars. Michael's gonna be bleeding green goo in some moments. You just don't expect any of the things you get when you come to that movie. And so it's so freaking bizarre and crazy. That's why I love it, but also it's weird. It's so weird. Best for beginners. The subreddit again chose John Carpenter's Halloween. And I thought hard on this one because I was like, if I'm being completely honest, for beginners, this is probably somebody a little bit younger, more than likely, if they have no knowledge of Halloween or haven't seen any of them. The movie gets more and more dated every single year. And I think a younger, more modern moviegoer might struggle with the pacing. So like maybe you show them Halloween 2018. I mean, it's kind of like a greatest hits of the entire franchise, but with like a more modern take on filmmaking, a more modern pacing, more brutality. They may get more out of that. They may love that long tracking shot, things like that. But I'm sorry, I just can't. You do have to do the original. If you're going to be about it, and you actually are a cinephile and you love film, then it's got to be the first one. Because like I said, when we open this thing up with why it's the best, all the things it originated, all the creativity it had to go into making this dirt cheap movie by John Carpenter, a bunch of other really young creatives and filmmakers, just everything that did not exist prior to this movie that is now beloved. That when you go trick or treating or you take your kids trick or treating, you may hear a house playing the Halloween theme. That people who don't even know horror movies, they hear that theme and immediately perk up because it's up there with like the Jaws theme. It's just that synonymous with like movie magic and with horror atmosphere. And Laurie Strode's one of the most recognizable final girls of all time. I mean, it's Jamie Lee Curtis, and Jamie Lee Curtis is maybe not Jamie Lee Curtis without this role. John Carpenter probably doesn't get his start. He's not John Carpenter without this film. So this thing just means so much to film history and to so much to people all over the world. And so many other movies these people are going to watch that they are actually going to be horror fans are going to be stealing from this one. So I think you got to see the one that broke the mold. The one that really, took everybody by the collar and said, things are different now, and launched this new slasher era. I think you got to go with the original. You got to go with The Night He Came Home. There's a reason that we're sitting here today doing this very video, and it's that movie. So I think that's the one you have to show them first, even if it's not the one I saw first. I saw it second, but when I watched it, it wasn't lost on me why it was so special. And I just needed more. I needed more. I needed to fill in all the gaps between 1 and 4. I needed to see what came after 4. And I've just been doing that every year since. Just going back and visiting the franchise over and over. I've seen the first Halloween movies. I've seen it more times than I've probably seen my grandma. There we go. That's how we'll end the video. Let me know who you guys chose for each one of these categories. What do you think of my picks? And go ahead and subscribe if you're new to the channel. We're going to be doing this for the Friday the 13th franchise in the next couple of days as well. So I don't want you to miss that. Ring the bell, get the notifications, all that good YouTube, yada, yada, yada. But one more thing. Would you have yourself a great day? I'm Nate from Nate saying that's a wrap.